The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, this is Mary Firm from ReachForce, and I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, which is the chemistry of the B2B landing page, the business-to-business landing page, and I'm calling it Volume 2 because I have the pleasure to bring back Brian Massey, the conversion scientist, who specializes in, I think, kind of a special formula he's created that makes it much easier for all of us to do an assessment of the basics that we need to drive the highest potential conversions on our various landing pages and website pages. And the reason that this is an important subject for us at ReachForce, we work with a lot of companies, and Brian's going to start showing some of this. He's leading the charge on the pictures, and and then I'm going to let him take over the presentation. So Brian, you want to open up with our first picture? We're just doing our live tech check because this always seems to happen to us. So one of the things that's really important in the way that business-to-business marketing has moved into this current phase is that we're no longer broadcasting outbound in order to convert people to the idea of us, the branding of us, the learning about our companies. People are in search of solutions typically now when they discover our website, maybe through our emails, our advertising online, our organic search. But people, when they come into our landing pages, are already traveling through their buyer's journey. And according to Lori Wisdo from Forrester, by the time we as marketers are going to hear from those prospects, they may be as far as 90% of the way through their buyer journey, their discovery phase of, isolating what it is that they need, what's the problem they're trying to solve. And by that point, then which vendors have solutions that will meet those needs. And then they're starting to get into what are the details of the different solutions. So if someone reaches out in a contact us form or ask for white paper, it might be as innocuous as they're just looking for white paper information, or it might be somebody who wants to assess you as part of that vendor consideration set. And so the things that Brian is going to talk to us about today are really important for us to be able to master in order to maximize the potential of the marketing that we're doing. And one of the things that we do at ReachForce is we have a solution called Smart Forms, which is a technology that lets any lead form capture up to 90 additional data points as those leads are captured. And what we do with that is we do a lot of case study investigation with our customers to ensure that there's a real benefit that they're achieving through the use of smart forms and how to make it better and all that other kind of stuff. And some of the really interesting research that we've discovered is, some of the early understanding was just that you could generate more leads because you don't have to ask as many qualifying questions because smart forms takes care of that. So say up to 40% more leads per page if you have that handled. But then we got into the fact that we were actually seeing more leads because we were no longer having to ask as many questions. And so by not having to ask as many questions throughout the entire sort of lead qualification process, we used to ask, this game of 20 questions. We would say, here's all the questions we want to ask. What industry are you in? What are your annual revenues? How many employees do you have? What are you considering buying a solution now? Where are you located? What's your phone number? What's your zip code? Well, a lot of those questions can be eliminated with smart forms data appending technology. But the thing we've discovered with one of our clients is that when he stopped asking those questions, he was able to ask fewer questions overall and determined that we don't get to ask a limitless number of questions as marketers in our lead qualification process. It's not 20 questions. It's really 10. In the entire lead qualification process, if you have multiple touch points or you're using progressive profiling, you only get to ask 10 questions because after that, people are just going to drop out. They're bored with it. They're tired. It's too intrusive. And so by using smart forms and not having to ask so many questions, this client actually increased leads and conversions at every step in his process, and in fact accelerated his leads to sales ready 6 months faster, went from a 40-week to a 15-week cycle and part of his lead process. So this is an issue that for me as a marketer has been something I've been obsessed with for a really long time. And Brian's actually the reason I know Brian. We're both based here in Austin, but I've been fascinated by the work that he's done for years. And so I was actually one of his students some years ago. And I continue to be his student because he is out there learning and studying at all times. And he really is a great teacher. So it's fun to be a student when you're around Brian. So I'm actually going to go ahead and ask Brian to pick it up from here. I'd like to do just a brief introduction, or actually, no, I'm not going to introduce, other than to say Brian is a really smart guy. He's a very entertaining presenter. You will learn a lot, and he's going to tell you a little bit about himself, his process, and something about all of our landing pages and how to make them better. So, Brian, please take it away.
All right. So glad to be here. I always love doing these ReachForce webinars. Number one, because Mary sets it up where this is more of a conversation. So we do have slides. We do have the mysterious voice behind the slides, which is going to be me, but we also get to have a little bit fun. And in particular today, we get to do some live critiques. So what I'm going to do is introduce myself to those of you that don't know me. I am a computer scientist by training. I went into semiconductor sales right out of college. I was a corporate marketer, and of course I've started my own practice, Conversion Sciences, and I don't know how you cram all this together without creating your own title. So I've entitled myself the Conversion Scientist. I'm the founder of Conversion Sciences. We're a consultant, and we spend all day split testing pages like the pages we're going to be seeing today to get more and more conversion rates. We can get 200, 300, 500% more conversions simply by making small changes to the page. And through our split testing process, we figure out which work and which don't. I'm a national speaker. I speak all over the world. Going to be in Germany and Sweden in September. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm the author of the book, Your Customer Creation Equation, and this lays the groundwork for any of you who are really managing a web development process. It lets you know what questions to ask and what to do. And you'll get a flavor of that in this presentation, which comes right from Chapter 8 of that book. And if you didn't know that, I am also a labwear fashion model known for my lab coat. So enough about me. Let's move on and talk about what you're going to learn. First of all, we're going to talk about how to build landing pages that work. And there are a few components that you need to mix in to make a landing page really work in a business-to-business environment. And I'm going to also demonstrate why you should never, ever ask someone to review your landing page live, because we are going to be critiquing. I don't think anybody's going to get their feelings hurt, and hopefully we're going to end up with a whole bunch more landing pages that convert at high rates and make everybody happy after we're all done. So I'm going to move through pretty quickly because we have a lot of folks that submitted landing pages for the review, but I think that this will give you a great groundwork for how I look at landing pages, and in the future how you're going to be able to look at landing pages. The basic components of a landing page, or the basic definition of a landing page, is it is a single-minded page, and it is dead set on keeping the promise made by an ad, by a link, or by an email, and its job is to get the visitor to take action. So you can see with this definition why it's different from a homepage. Homepage is designed to get people into the site on the right path. Category pages and things are designed to help educate them. But when we're talking about a landing page, it is in response to a specific ad, link, or email, an offer that gets the visitor to take action. Here are the components. So if I want to make a landing page, I need to start with a rich solution of web page, and I'm going to drop in some offer, and I'm going to drop in some form. When I mix these together, I get a very powerful element called the landing page. So the simplest landing page is this. There you are. That's the simplest landing page. It has a web page. There is a call to action, an offer, which is to submit, and there is a form, and it's a single button on this form. Isn't that beautiful? Now, the reason I put this up there is because those of you using marketing automation tools have more power now to create landing pages that aren't beholden to the template that your corporate site is built on. You're going to start to understand as we go through this.
Hey, Brian, I'm going to just do a
Yes.
quick poll here. I wanted to make sure if you can see Brian's screens. I'm not seeing them on my end. I'm assuming it's my Mac problem. If you can see his screen, can you just like pop something into chat and tell us, or a question? Just let me see if you are seeing what you should be seeing. Otherwise, it's a radio show, which is fine because we can do a radio show, but it's a little bit more helpful with the the actual pictures. So I had heard from somebody earlier. Okay, no one is seeing the pictures. Boy, you know what? I got to tell you something.
No one is
You know what?
seeing the pictures.
You know what that's
Hold
telling
on.
me? This is telling me that thankfully Brian and I are ready for radio. People have been saying that about us when they meet us for years. Wow, you have a face for radio. But now we know we actually have the ability. Yes. And you know what? You know what'll be great is that it'll be, first of all, technologically very intriguing to see. And by the way, you're also showing that you're all very, very polite because that you were so.
We love the polite crowds. I may have fixed the problem here by.
You did. I see it. I see it now. But I thought, of course, and I always assume it's just me, right? It's just me. So if you wouldn't mind, when we at the end, we will actually do sort of the after party, and we'll go back to the beginning and showcase some slides. But I want to keep it going with
Yeah,
what Brian's doing.
They missed anything visually that's going to impact their utter enjoyment and learning. So,
and another great
This
reason.
one is,
another great reason to watch on demand. But I'm going to mute myself. So go ahead. Thank you, everybody. Here we go.
So, when you open up the landing page feature of your marketing automation tool, this is what you want to start with. You don't want to start with a bunch of distractions. You don't want to start with the header and the logo. You don't want to start with the standard navigation. You don't want to start even with the standard footer at this point. All we want to do is build this page backwards, because instead of starting from that point where we've already got all the baggage that comes with our standard corporate website template, we have introduced things that don't help the landing page. They may look cool, and the company may think they're great to have on web pages. On a landing page, it eliminates that single-minded effort. So this is where you start. Find the blankest template you can in your marketing automation system and start there. But clearly the issue here is that since we have offer and form on the page, clearly the issue here is that we need to do something that's a little bit better. Offer, submit, why submit? The only time we've seen the submit call to action really test well is when we're talking about dominatrixes, and that's a pretty small market. So how about click here now? This is more of a call to action. Click here now. Ooh, something exciting is going to happen. Unfortunately, that doesn't really give them a reason to click. So some famous ones that we've seen in the market are free Viagra and get money from Nigeria. I think many of you have received the emails talking about the fellow who's got money to give in Nigeria, and all you have to do is send a little bit of money to get it. The problem is that these are not relevant. So in our businesses, these might get clicks, but they're not going to be relevant to our business and moving it forward, and that should not be a surprise to anyone. So in terms of creating relevant messages, what do we do? How do we start with creating this relevant offer? Well, it's easy. It's easy. All you have to do is look where the traffic is coming from. If the traffic is coming from a link in your email, what did the email promise them that got them to click on that link? Whatever you said in that email, you say on the landing page. This becomes your offer. If it's coming from a pay-per-click ad, we'll show you a couple examples of that. You want the offer on the landing page to match the offer in the ad. So if let's say that we've got a couple of ads that are out there, and we've got one showing this discounted dollar bills from the leader in dollar resales, and another one's discounted dollar bills, and it's 50% off new US dollars from the leading reseller. Our landing page needs to reflect that. And here you can see we've chosen the 50% off. So which ad is this going to match up with? It's going to match up with ad B. And even the slight disconnect where we don't offer 50% off in the A ad, but still make that offer on the page, there's going to be a disconnect. So the closer you can make your offer on your landing page to the ad, the thing that brought them there, the better you're going to do. Now the offer needs to include a call to action. This is pretty easy. We can say click here, but we're getting a lot of stuff on one button. So what we're going to do is we're going to invite the designer in, and we're going to ask them what they would do. And any competent designer would say, well, why don't we move the offer into a headline, and we'll put the call to action on the button. So this works. 50% off US dollar bills in the ad, 50% off US dollar bills from the leader resellers on the landing page, and we have a button with a call to action. So this is starting to size up as a really effective landing page. Of course, the problem is that there's nothing on this page that helps the business. If they click on the button, what do? What happens? Well, we need to add something. So we're going to expand our form. Maybe we want to get their email address so we can add them to our list. If we do that and we want to be up and up, we'll want to ask for permission. A permission list is going to be smaller but higher quality than an unpermissioned list. We could ask them for their credit card number, and in this case, it's we're selling dollars to businesses, so maybe we can just have them enter the credit card. But unfortunately, we need more than just the credit card number. We need name, address, security code, expiration date. And something has happened here. We've introduced a contaminant into our fabulous mixture. This is called abandon. So as you start to ask more questions and start to ask more personal questions and start to introduce questions about, oh, can I trust this guy with this information? You create abandon. And abandonment is simply someone comes to the page and doesn't complete the action, doesn't complete the form. Here's a great example, though, of how you can manage this. This is an example from our Marketo, and it uses smart forms. And Mary, you can jump in here at any time if you want. What we're doing here is we know this. The more forms you add to page, the more likely you are to decrease your conversion rate. The fewer people are going to sign up. Now, you need qualifying questions to send to your sales force. So the rule of thumb is never put anything in the form that isn't absolutely necessary. And this tool, the Smart Form tool, allows you to ask for a little bit up front, and then as the prospect goes through the process of learning more, as they fill out more forms and get more information, you can ask additional qualifying information. And once you have enough information to send it on to sales for a call, you can do that.
So when Brian goes to the next slide, he's going to show you what sort of how the smart form works. And since we skipped it before, any of our customers, Marketo is one of our customers using smart forms. It actually will function off of parameters of the field. So you don't need all of these fields. You could also have the phone number or not have the phone number. It uses geolocation by IP in the background, all of which helps the system to identify the best likely matches for this customer company. And in this case, we were matching to Aptus, which is based in San Mateo, and it's a new company. That is VP of Marketing is the former Marketo Director of Marketing, Maria Pergolino. And so with smart forms, once the user fills out the form and clicks Aptus, for example, if that's the correct home location for them, then what happens in the background is all of this additional data will be populated and passed over into your marketing automation or CRM system, and you prevent yourself having to play 20 questions throughout the form process. Or in the case of Marketo, they used to ask 9 questions on these landing pages. Now they ask 5. If they've already captured some of that, this is showing an example where Marketo's already completed that aspect of the progressive profile. So that's part of Marketo's software itself. But Smart Forms basically prevents the salespeople who want to know everything having to have those questions on the form so that we as marketers can maximize our lead flow. And I always tell Brian, I really don't like to get into a big pitch, but in terms of technology and filling out forms, we know from landing page conversion studies that the fewer form questions you ask, the higher the conversion rate. If you don't have to ask embarrassing questions like, how much do you weigh, probably going to get a higher conversion rate. And the business equivalent of those is, what are your annual revenues, perhaps, or, how long have you been in business? But so that's just an example of how to optimize some of the landing page elements. And that's sort of what Smart Forms does. And I'll let Brian pick back up here.
Yeah, so reducing the size of your forms and the number of difficult questions. There are conversion killers that are in the list. Things like if you ask for a mobile phone, they're like, I'm not going to get calls on my mobile phone. If you ask for a social security number, everybody knows you're just out to steal their identity. So pick the ones that people that will be used by your sales force, or if you can use a progressive capture system like Smart Forms, then you will have a higher conversion rate. So at this point, we've got to deal with this abandon in a number of other ways. So abandon can be dealt with by asking the copywriter to anticipate the objections that are causing abandon and write something that will overcome those. So in this case, I just imagined a copywriter coming at us with a few bullets, and bullets are very scannable and are good to use on landing pages. But in this case, he's just talking about that these are genuine US dollar bills, that they're new and they're still in circulation, and that more are coming soon. He felt that this would be the copy that would help reduce abandon by reinforcing the call to action. There are also a number of other things that we can mix into the mix as well. We can build trust. So if I'm giving somebody a credit card, or even if I'm giving them my corporate information that might include number of employees, annual revenues, or marketing budget, I need to know that I can trust you. So we're going to put some things into the mix and onto the page that help build trust. Number one could be your logo. Dun, dun, dun. So most of us start with a template where the logo is already there. Those of us that are designing landing pages that are high converting use the logo strategically. So we've got a logo that builds trust, or that looks trustworthy, or that is familiar. If we work for one of those companies that is known to our prospects, we definitely want to have it there because it's the stamp of trust that the company has spent years building up. So that's the proper use of a logo. Also, if you're asking for credit card information, these logos from the credit card companies actually help. Most people see them as informational, but the truth is you're borrowing trust from these well-known brands and from your customers. So the fact that you have people using your product, that's a good sign. And especially if you have familiar logos in your network of customers, you can bring those to the landing page. And it makes me feel like I'm not so alone in making this decision. Another thing we can provide is proof. This may seem very straightforward, but people forget to do it, and there's some interesting ways that you can provide proof in the process. Here we just added another bullet. So over 13 trillion units sold, $13 trillion sold this year. You can do the same thing. You can say, how many customers have you served? Or better yet, dice it down into how many reports have you generated for all of your customers, if that's the business you're in? How many dollars do you have under management? Things like that. Tell me that there is some reason for me to trust you. And then, of course, show the product. No one takes action until they've imagined in their mind taking action. And they can't imagine it until they see the product. Now, many of our lead generation products, quote unquote, are actually webinars, white papers. So we have to work a little bit harder to get those images seen. In this case, it's pretty easy to show a dollar bill, and maybe not even that important since we all can call to memory a dollar bill very easily. But in this case, we've now completed all the things that really can provide a catalyst. But the problem now is that the call to action is invisible. So let me go back here and show you this. Click here is down there at the bottom, and it's really not a very powerful call to action because now I'm pretty sold. If I click here, what's going to happen? Well, the button can say, get your discounted dollars. We've made it bigger. We've made it orange. We've screened back some of our trust symbols so that they don't conflict with the call to action button. Big arrow pointing at it. All of these things actually have been proven to increase conversion rates on your B2B landing pages. So now we let the designer move things around. We're only letting the designer in at this point because we want to make sure the components that are there, we don't want them adding sliding header. We don't want them adding rotating logos. It's nothing that moves. Don't put anything that moves on the page because it distracts people from understanding what your copy says, from exploring the trust and proof, and from understanding what the call to action is. So someone could certainly do something with this. This is not pretty, but we don't need them to add anything to it. No navigation, no social media icons. Why send your store-bought traffic off to Mark Zuckerberg? So just very quickly, here's a great exercise for you. Go see one of your landing pages, and we're fixing to do this on a number of landing pages ourselves, and count the number of things on the landing page that aren't one of these components. Is it part of the offer? Is it part of the form? Does it provide proof? Does it build trust? Or does it illustrate the product visually? Another great way, by the way, of illustrating the product visually is with moving images or video. So these are the components of a landing page plus these important catalysts that reduce abandonment rate. So some examples of use of images and what you can do if you offer an information product. This is a landing page that we got, Rockwell Automation. The eye doesn't draw too much. The submit button is nice and yellow, so it sticks out. The thing up there in the upper right isn't even clickable, and I think they should take that off. But we want to be able to show the product. Image is missing on this one. And something about, just to mention about products, you really don't want to create what I call business porn. These are the gratuitous images that are designed to incite some sort of feeling or emotion with your visitor. This is not what we want to do. This is just really an insult, and people understand when they're being pandered to. Avoid the stock images and work a little bit harder. We don't want any of these things on our website because they don't work.
Hey,
But
Brian,
what I did is I downloaded this free.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to ask you a quick question because I think that so many of us feel like we have to have some kind of image, but we don't have an image, especially with software technology. I avoid the stock images. I don't like them personally. But have you done any research into what happens if they do show up, like that versus, stock photos versus nothing, or stock photos versus like photos of people from your own company that are more, how can I say, like, stock, not portrait studio photos, but just real images of your team.
Well, here's the test. So if you have an image on the page, it should have a caption, because captions are always read. First of all, the image draws the eye, and people look down to understand the image.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can't write a caption for an image that repeats the offer or sells what's on the page, because the landing page's job is to sell the offer, then you've got the wrong image there. And yes, you should take it off, not let it be a distraction. Let them spend time with the copy of the other components that are actually selling the offer. So look at your images, and if it's a pretty girl in a business suit with glasses on, smiling, looking at a computer, and you can't write a caption under her with a straight face that says, "Our so management system delivers the highest," and you don't want to talk like that, by the way. If you can't write a caption for that image, don't use it. That's my rule of thumb.
That's a good one.
Does
Okay,
that help?
thanks. Yeah, absolutely.
The thing is that there's always a way. Here I used PowerPoint to render a screen capture of the cover of this book into something that's 3D. It's thick. This is a 150-page offer. This is a 150-page book. So make it thick so I visually can see that it is a valuable offer. These sorts of things play on the eye, and we can imagine holding this even though we don't expect to actually get a physical book. We all understand that we prefer a download. So, and here's what it looks like on the page. And suddenly it's the most intriguing thing on the page. The caption is the offer: download an electronic copy of the Safe Book 4. So this page is going to have a higher conversion rate, in my opinion, with the image on it. Here's another great example of image. And Mary, I guess we get to pat you on the back. I assume that you developed this page. It's the landing page offering a free ebook, and the image is a little story. I thought this was pretty well done, so I'll explore this and understand where I'm losing value in my current contact database. And there's even a little tally here, which I thought was well done, telling me how much this is costing me if I've got a database this size. So here's a chance for the designer to actually get in and help you communicate through an image.
Well, thank you.
My pleasure. And by the way, that was not staged. She
no, I actually didn't know. I didn't know that. But I'll tell you, after I saw that, because we edited the thing just before we jumped on, and I saw that and I thought, oh, that's nice. He's showing in a landing page, and he's going to point out all the things that are missing, because I don't have any customer logos there. I don't have a customer quote. I didn't put a caption under it. And PS statements are one of my other favorite things. But thank you for the compliment, but I'm going to work on it, because I feel like we can do better.
There is more to be done. There is more to be done. I think this is a great example of the role of the designer. So we have a fairly plain looking one. This one might have been created by a marketer in one of the marketing automation systems. And then the one on the right here, the more colorful one, is after the designer got a hold of it. Now, so a couple of things that we're going to be looking for is obviously the core components. So is there an offer? This is offering a report. three best practices report. The one on the left says that very clearly. There's a little bit more of a increase your sales and towing capabilities. I have to move this out of the way to see this well. Increase your cash towing sales by 20%. So right off the bat, this landing page on the right doesn't really tell you what the offer is. Video takes up the screen. The form doesn't really look like a form like we think it is. Back over here on the left, it's very straightforward. White boxes on the white background, that's kind of what we expect. And then the copy is pretty straightforward and easily to scan. One column in the one on the left over here. And I don't know if you guys can see my pen. So one column. This is very easy to scan. I'm going to get the information. This gives us a little bit of a back and forth, and this icon is brighter. These icons are faded back, and numbers, we don't really care that much about numbers, but if we're a towing company, as this landing page appeals to, a little cute little tow truck might be a good icon. The primary job is to get me to read this. So all in all, this is simpler. It has most of the components. It's got some proof in the copy, but what we found was that the one that was handled by the designer converted at 1.65%, and the one that was not converted at a 5 to 7% rate, depending on the source of the traffic.
Wow.
So the good news is that simple can be better. And I know that a lot of you probably have management and that are hovering over you, wanting to see something cool, but I think you're going to find out that the cool is going to actually work against you in terms of generating leads. So I wanted to make sure I give a plug for my book, Your Customer Creation Equation. Again, it's really written for people that manage systems like this, that manage online marketing systems, not for the doers, although there will be plenty of tips in there that you can use to make sure that your team is delivering a website or a campaign that delivers. Enter a few URLs for you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a switch over here.
Well, you're switching. I just want to say, so this is our second time doing this, and one of the things that, first of all, every time I sit and watch Brian do this, I feel like I'm going to like a workout class. You know, you have to do your sit-ups and you have to like do your stretches, and it's like every time I see it, it reminds me, oh, I forgot those 3 things. We need to be doing that, and it's just great to take this time. And so what we realized last time is we wanted to see a lot more live pages as much as possible. So I think we've got 25 minutes left, and we're really going to focus on, there's at least over 30 URLs submitted by all of you. So Brian's going to start putting those up on screen and walking through them in real time. So just in the interest of trying to get to as many as possible, we will, if you can hit the most obvious of the changes you would suggest, and let's just keep getting through. And then if you wanted yours critiqued and we didn't get to it, just ping us, and we'll see if we get back to you. So we will end on the hour, but I wanted to get right into the landing pages.
Okay, great. So yeah, I'm going to move pretty quickly through these, and unfortunately that means that I mostly am going to be pointing out the flaws. But let's go ahead and apply our math, our formula to this.
Now,
so
are you showing, Brian? Are you showing your screen?
I am. Oh, you know what? I may not be. When it's, you know what? For some reason, I think they've changed it so that when you switch it,
yeah,
they pause it. So
okay. Go. Anyway, so now we're gonna do that every now and then. We're gonna say, "Are you showing your screen?" Because I'm not seeing it. Okay.
There we go. Let's try it again. I keep getting.
Everyone, fingers crossed. Sending good vibes. I'm thinking of my friends in Santa Barbara that made this wonderful software for us. Which
showing the screen has been paused. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
Conflict between this and my. I thought we had this worked out earlier. Let me try and doing it this way. Can you see it now? You should see the Informs landing page.
Yes.
The folks at Informs
All
here.
right, I got it.
Enter something into chat if you're here in Forms.
Yes, if you see your page, let us know.
Yeah. So the things that we are looking for here are obviously the 2 main ingredients, the offer, and I think they've got a good offer here, the 2013 Association Email Marketing Benchmark Report. This is part 2, and we want to find some form. They certainly do have that. I like their call to action, get access now. What this form does is a little bit in question, and they might want to add something to the top that says when you complete this form, you will get the report. So let's look for trust building. We have some trust building in terms of the corporate logo.
And we do, Brian, we do have our maker here, and I've just asked,
Yay.
Informs is here, and I've asked if they could tell us if there's anything specific they want to know about. And by the way, the criticism is harsh, but it feels so good when he's done. So just go ahead and power through it, guys. It's a good burn, okay?
Yep.
So I see the trust, I see the offer.
Here's some more trust. And they actually do, in the copy, they provide some proof. It says, I'm marking through it instead of underlining it, but it says 850 large mid-sized associations were queried. 850, you know, this is probably a good sample. So they got proof. I think they've got all of the components here. The last one missing, of course, is image. And what do we see on the page? We see a little business porn. What is this?
Oh, naughty.
What is this guy drawing with the graph going up? What does this mean? What are the indices? What are you measuring here? Tell me what this means. And it would be very easy, as I hope I've shown, to go ahead and grab the cover of that benchmark report, render it in 3D using PowerPoint, or I use a fancy 3D rendering tool for stuff that look great, and go ahead and put that on the page so I know what I'm getting. And you can even pull out a few key charts if you want to, some of the most colorful or interesting pages that are in there, and let the visitor know that they're not getting a stack of paragraphs, but they're also getting some charts and results. So
You know,
those would be,
one of my
go ahead.
favorite cheater ways for those of us in marketing and not having a designer sitting by our desk at all times. I cheat by taking PowerPoint and making a portrait orientated slide, and I'll just mock up a cover and save it as an image as a certain size and throw that on there, because that looks to me like something somebody just needed an image there and grabbed it. So
Yeah.
yeah, the other thing
So
I'd say is get access now. That color could be different. It would stand out better, right?
it would be. So if this is actually working against you because it's competing with call to action buttons. So if there was some way you could highlight this and even move these trust symbols over closer to the button where the person's deciding, am I going to give them this information? Oh, they're Ika and Maug and Isip and stuff. That's to the people in their prospect list. That will be important and meaningful to me. We don't know what that means. So if I would informs, I'd be curious to know what your conversion rate on this page is already. I would imagine it's relatively high because you've got a lot of components.
Yeah,
Are the
informed.
Laserfish folks here?
Ooh.
I would also like to know what their conversion rate is. So let's look at this one more time. I'm not going to belabor this point on all of these, but I think it's a good exercise. The offer, the ultimate buyer's handbook for document management solutions. Well, that's a pretty good offer, pretty good claim to action. Do we have a form, some way of taking the visitor taking action? Yes, we do. And it is clearly laid out. These little arrows work. If you can work an arrow in to get the eye drawn to your form, that would be great. See how this form, this is a little bit of the nature of the screen here, but it kind of disappears. But we have a button, and the rule with button color, if you want it to stand out, it simply needs to be in a color different from the rest of the color of the page. So it's an orange, and there's a little orange here. So it doesn't stand out as much as it would if it was red, or if it was even blue, bright blue. So make it a color different from the rest of the page, and it will have the kind of contrast that you need. They do quite a bit of work building the case for the book here. This goes on quite a bit. But the great thing here is they don't really ever switch over and say, it's about our business. This landing page does a very good job of selling the offer, which is the book. And this is a mistake that a lot of us make. We'll go to a landing page, and you'll see a few of these, and we'll say, our company and our product, but we don't talk about the offer that the landing page is there to keep the promise of. So, and I thought this was a very good touch as well. This is what we call a dripping pan. So anybody who's read to the bottom of a landing page is probably well qualified. They're engaged. Make the offer again at the bottom. You can see in this case that the offer has scrolled away to the top. So when I click down here to load your copy, it brings me right back up here to where the form is. They don't do a lot of trust building or proof. The copy, I think, actually does a good job of developing proof, but we're lacking some trust. There's not really a Laserfish logo, no client logos. Some of those things might help. And
What do you
I
think
think,
about that phone number on there? Do you think that that's going to water down the conversion, or it might increase it because people are more urgently inclined to call?
if we can get someone on the phone, it's usually a lot more effective than if we take their number and market to them to eventually get them on the phone.
Mm,
So I say leave it there.
okay.
And if you're going to put it on there as a secondary call to action, landing pages should have a single call to action, by the way, but you can offer a secondary call to action for those who are like, oh, I got to call these guys. They have this book, but I'm not going to read it. I just want to know who they are. Let them get in touch with sales. So make it more prominent if you're going to go ahead and do that. And normally we say don't put any navigation on the page, but contact us is probably okay. Again, these are folks that are, maybe I don't want the book, but you clearly your video and your page has convinced me that I should give you a ring. In the image department, we have two. We have this nice big rendering of the product, and we also have a video that is about the product. So most of us put a video on our landing page that's about our company or our process. If you can put a video on the landing page, it's going to be most effective if you make it about the offer. So they spend a lot of time in the video talking about how wonderful the document management buyer's handbook is. They've really invested in this as a lead generation tool.
Well, I hope it's working great. I haven't heard from anybody at Laserfish, so let's move on. Let's see what else we got going here.
Their loss. Okay, this is cyber. Anybody from cyber in town? We're going to go very quickly through the process. We've got mature, strengthen, and optimize your PMO. So what they're offering here is a PMO discovery session. So this is where the offer is. It's not mentioned in the headline. So there's a problem here with this page keeping the promise of whatever brought it here. And then it talks a lot about their process. So all of this copy in the video is about their process, not about the PMO discovery session. And you may say, well, what I got to talk. The PMO discovery session is about my products, about my business, right? Why don't we do that? Well, a better question would be: is what sorts of things would I uncover? What sorts of things would I need to know in order to have a successful PMO discovery session? Who am I going to talk to? Am I going to talk to a sales guy? Am I going to talk to somebody knowledgeable? How long is it going to be? Is it going to be 30 minutes? Is it going to be an hour? And should I invite other people to come in and do this in a conference room setting? Is this just going to be a pitch, or is this going to be a back and forth? There's a lot of things when you're selling a sales call, which is a great offer, by the way, especially when it's positioned this way as an educational session. You want to sell the sales call. You want to sell the offer, and you can put some copy in there at the bottom that says who we are and why we're a credible person to talk to. But a page like this pretty much assumes that they are lower in the funnel. So if you're already asking them to get on a session with you, you're only bringing people to this page that have probably been through your site and understand something or have been in contact with you in another way.
But you know
So I
what,
think
Brian, I think that your assessment of where it should be in the funnel is accurate. But when you look at all those questions on that landing page form, there's 9 mandatory questions, by the way. And
yes.
by the way, most of which, at least half of which, I could eliminate using smart forms. But mandatory questions, it's like the more questions there, you're going to lose your conversion. You're going to lose leads from the form. So this alone, if that was cut to 5 questions, you could probably increase. I mean, depending on what it's doing now, that step alone could be a 40% lift in conversions or a 40%
Yeah.
increase in leads, to put it in a different way.
Absolutely. And, this form needs to be couched in terms of what's going to happen here. So why do you need my postal code for me to have a PMO discovery session? Well, it's so it gets assigned to the right sales guy. So already I'm like, oh, this is a sales call. They need to know postal code, country, and industry. They've got to get it to the right guy. So clearly I'm a sales call. I think maybe I will abandon here. So I agree with you. I think these are conversion killers. And when you say things like phone number, if you can word the question as to what number should we contact you at? In other words, you're asking for information to enforce the offer. You can really do that well. What email address should we confirm, or should we use to schedule the time with you, or to confirm the time? Or what email address do you use at work normally? So I agree with you. And at least it doesn't say submit.
All right,
Sign me up.
I'm gonna do
I don't
something
know.
here. So I don't know if I know you've got some teed up. If you are here and you are waiting for your page to be looked at by Brian, if he submitted a URL, can you just say something in the chat or the questions, and I will look out for that. And if it's one of the ones that Brian is ready, I've got Junction Solutions was the first one up. If you've got that one, Tiger
Junction
Text
Solutions, got Tiger Text.
and Spiceworks are all here and waiting for their moment of glory, all of which are going to
You
be
guys
glorious.
at Spiceworks are all over, man. Every time I go to a conversion event, you guys are there, so I love you.
Yeah.
So Junction Solutions was first.
Yep.
All right, this one the
Ooh,
note
I
was
gotta
case
say,
studies.
this is nice. I just want to say, just from my like I've seen a lot of these things. This is very nice, and I love the yellow button.
Yes, yellow button stands out. There's no navigation that's drawing my eye. There's no gratuitous um, information in the header. So they clearly started with a landing page template here. What their offer here is a case study. So it's this case study from Sean Conaway of Pete's Coffee and Tea. And this is an interesting image. It isn't really the cover of the case study, I don't think, but I think it does a pretty good job of communicating that. Plus, it injects a little bit of proof in the form of a testimonial. I'm sorry, trust in the form of testimonial.
My only concern over that is I love the graphic. I look at it though, and it looks more like a separate ad, like it's an
It
IAB
does.
standard size, and it looks like it's going to take me something different. If it's
Yeah.
reinforcing this, I would put it in a portrait size, or like aspect ratio, so it looks like it's the cover of something. And then I think that's the only thing I would do. I would maybe like make the copy a little bit narrower, so it's all one vertical column, and then have that in the middle. That's just my take on it.
Right.
I'm not a conversion scientist though, so.
Well, it does have this arrow too, but I agree with you because here's the magical place under any image, the caption. And so it leads off into a blank place. So it might actually create somewhat of a barrier to the form. Unfortunately, all of the copy talks about the ERP for food and CPG. It doesn't really talk at all about the case study. So if you're going to offer a case study, offer the case study. Tell me what's going to be in it. Fortunately, here I learned that the COO is going to be involved. But what's it going to discuss? What was the major takeaway, or provide an abstract, something. This landing page is about selling the case study, and if people download the case study, they've raised their hand as qualified for your product. Then you can go on to talk about your company and your product in subsequent communications.
And I have a question. I know George is here because this is one of the best landing pages I've seen in a long time. But I'm wondering, I see that the offer is to watch a video of the case study. Is there also like a print version of the case study? And if you want to just pipe up Junction Solutions, that would be interesting. Because if it wasn't, you could put a still image from the video on this form to sell the video, because then you're reinforcing it.
Yeah. So is that a question for me?
No, it's for George, because he's in there. If he has the answer, then he'll let us know.
Okay. You know what you might want to do if it's a convincing video? Go ahead and put it on the page and have some sort of an upsell from there. If case studies can be, go ahead and use that. Very similar to say how the whitetail guys did it. This is a video here, and we already went through this. There's a question here as to whether video should be autoplayed. In general, on this winning page, the video did autoplay. On landing pages, especially if you're promising that they're going to see a video, you can autoplay it. But you don't want to be surprising people. So in general, we say if they are expecting video, autoplay it. If they're not, then ask them to play it.
Yeah, so I've got so Junction Solutions does say that they have a white paper version or a printout version and a capture of the video. Yeah, so playing with all these ideas, I think that Brian's given us a lot of jumping off points. I think that the key takeaway I get is, other than giving that that reinforcement, all of those key points like customer logos, proof points, captions, is focus, right? You tell people what's in the offer you're trying to get them to take. Don't go off in a bunch of other directions. Is that right, Brian?
Yes, and it's going to make things easier for you. So how many times you started that landing page or that web page and you're like, all right, I got to find a creative way to talk about my company. Well, if you're talking about the offer, it's like, well, this is a cool offer, and I know the speaker, and I'm not the speaker. Well, it might be a speaker, it might be an author, and he's got a great credibility, and these are the things I like most about the thing that I think are the most important thing to our business, and so write about those, get people to want to see it.
Okay, so I've got Silver Spring here, Tiger Text, and Spiceworks all waiting, hoping to see their landing page. And
All right, let's look at Silver Springs. So my question here for Silver Springs is, what is the offer? And this is something that we do, and it comes across as manipulative. Breathe new life into your demand response programs. So I like colors. When you use color in copy, it wakes up the brain, and the brain says, "Wait a minute, hold on, we got to figure out what this really means." This is a little cliche. Breathe new life. I've seen this 1,000 times, and um, you know, air fresheners and all sorts of things. So this is not the kind of offer that is going to keep a promise. And it begins as legacy communications for demand response DR programs reach end of life. The opportunity to leverage continuous two-way communications is breathing new life into these programs. So people don't talk like this, and you're offering a white paper. So I think that the copy goes in a wrong direction, and this is a mistake that we feel like we have to write in business speak to be safe when we're selling B2B. No, nobody understands what that means, even if it's what they do all day and night. Um, so if this was focused on the white paper and what the advantages of the white paper were, which it's never addressed in here, I think this page would take off. We could breathe new life into this landing page if we wanted, if we just talked about what was in the white paper and why it was important to
I
us.
honestly
And
feel like
from
I just want to say I feel the pain for the people that did this, because it's a great landing page in a lot of ways. But I've been in the class. I feel like I'm back in college right now, and I wrote this amazing paper, and the professor's up there just shredding it because I got too fancy with my language. So I would say, just from my perspective at ReachForce, we've done a lot of testing with copy. We've made a real initiative internally. If you get emails from us, whether it has my name on it or one of my colleagues, we really focus on trying to be more conversational and more open. And we really try to speak like we're speaking to you personally, hopefully. Sometimes we
right,
succeed more times than others. And I think that this page would be more successful with that. And I like to use what I
yeah,
call the mom test. So if you run this by someone out of your industry and get their response, especially if it goes poetic like this, you might find out if you're too jargony for real people or if you're just not making sense. Sometimes we get too close to
yeah.
it internally.
Use of bullets is good. Image is wrong. Obviously, it needs to be whatever the white paper is. So we're coming close to the end of time. I want to jump over to I think Spiceworks was next.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so Spiceworks, free help desk software. This was a pretty complex page. Uh, the offer is very clear, though. Nicely done. Free help desk software. The form is here, and you can also get the form on this kind of interesting implementation. What happens here is you click on these numbers or you click on next and previous, and you get a different slide. So they've created kind of a slide share like landing page where you flip through of your own accord. Fortunately, it doesn't spin on its own, and explore the things. And I don't know if this is because there's a fear of the long page, but we are more intuitive scrollers. So if each of these panels had been a section going down the page as we scrolled, especially if there were if these headlines were highlighted, we'd be able to scan down the page and find those things that we found most interesting. And every one of those sections could have a form on it saying download now, taking them off to the download page. Obviously, these buttons are in a similar color to the rest of the page. They could be made to stand out, but if you had a whole bunch on the page, as I recommended, then it probably wouldn't make as big a difference. They build some trust here. They do a lot of time building proof in these slides, and they use testimonials to build trust. Completely free, some sort of a badge would be great here. At a glance, I can see down here it's 100% free. those things work. So it's, again, using image to communicate the value on the page. And I like this most of all because I love this proof point. Here's where they've taken something that's, arguably pretty arbitrary. Right now, 2,748,716 IT pros are managing 162,490, 656 devices and 94 million users with SpiceWorks. Use the specific numbers because they're more credible. Don't say over 10,000 served. You say 11,642 served because it gains more credibility. But this is the sort of thing when somebody's questioning whether they should do this and they say, well, there are millions of people using this. I'm not going to get fired for buying this. I think it's very effective. And they might even want to make this more prominent or have something that visually brings the eye down to that. So I love that SpiceWorks guys are always working on it. I see them everywhere. Finally, Tiger Text.
Yay.
All right. For this one, I thought that their use of trust symbols was sophisticated. So let me talk about this. First of all, I come to a page. It fits onto my screen pretty easy. Reduce communication risk with these top 5 signs in mind. So I know I'm going to get an offer for something that's going to meet the top 5 signs. So I think the offer works well, even though it doesn't say you're going to get a white paper. The offer is repeated here right above the form, which is good form. Download now is a kind of call to action that tells me what's going to happen if I click on it. I don't think that they ask for too much for a download. When you start asking for a phone number, this is a conversion killer, but your sales folks might say, well, if they're not going to give us a phone number, we really don't want the lead, then leave it in there. But really, in terms of proof, so what they've done is they've put some of their customer logos here. And one of the problems is I think hopefully you got from my presentation was that these can compete with the other elements. So if these were rendered in full color, you can see how the download button might fade into the background. You can see how even this image over here might be less bold because it doesn't have a lot of bright colors, but you can imagine the reds and blues that people use in their logos down here in the bottom. So what they've done is they've screened them back to grayscale. And what this does is it allows them to use the logos, but it doesn't draw the eye away from the important things, which is we want you to download this thing after you've completed our form. And we want you to understand that, we're talking about mobile-related issues here, mobile devices. So
I have a quick
I thought that
question
was a best practice.
Yeah, I think this is this is a gorgeous page. The use of color and even the little download-ish, the arrow icon on the download now button. I'm curious to know from the Tiger Text folks, if you're still here, how is the conversion rate on this page and what kind of percentage conversion, and is this an improvement from where it was before? Because I think we're always looking for that kind of data point. Because I think the other thing, they've accomplished all of these things in a really small footprint. It's, I mean, I know the long page format can be really successful, but I don't, I think this is really good. I love that little recall where the hand button is popping out from the smartphone. Really successful. Oh, okay. So we've got an answer here. Hold on 1 second. So this ended up being our best conversion rate page. We think it was because we used related images instead of general iStock images. Well done. In our previous landing pages, and our logos are new. I would say that I think everything Brian said is accurate. I think what you guys are saying is accurate. The use of the red color is really effective, specifically because I think a lot of us who've been doing this for a while always gravitate to that orange button. But the red here reinforces your logo color, and the muted tones of everything else, it's just very elegant and yet effective. So well done. I'm curious if the questions themselves, the fields, are mandatory, because I noticed you don't have that asterisk. Which always tells people it's mandatory, but I find a lot of people make things mandatory because they don't want people, leaving empty fields. So, but it's somehow more reassuring not to be mandating it, even if it is mandatory.
Yeah, the asterisks, asterisks carry some baggage, and there have been tests of people have not used the asterisks and have increased conversion rate in certain situations. That doesn't mean everybody should go rip their asterisks off, but an asterisk means not really to a lot of people. So if you've got a claim, like a proof claim, and you have an asterisk next to it, you might as well have not made the claim, because it's like, oh, that's not really true. We double people's efficiency asterisk. And even if it's related to the proof of this was reported by Forrester, the asterisk is like, oh, they didn't really. Double can be interpreted, in a Bill Clinton sort of way. So
The one thing I would suggest is if there was a way to do a test against this with a customer quote, like how valuable this was to them. And Tabitha at Tiger Text is telling us we have it so that once you select download, it asks you to fill out the questions. I'm assuming it's definitely optimized the sales process to have the validation. All right, well, good. Yeah, great page. And we are totally bumping at the end of our 1 hour. Hopefully we kept it interesting for you guys. I did have a question, which I took on the side, which was, would I explain how to implement smart forms with Marketo? And I would be happy to do that. I think it's a little bit detailed for this webinar. So I will have one of our customer support people who does that for all the time sit down and walk through that. If anyone else has questions about the technical details of how to implement a smart forms inside of any landing page form, I'm more than happy to set somebody up. Either I can do it. We have this webinar we do on that separately. Just ping me, send me an email, hello@reachforce.com. Send me an email and say you would like to have that done for you. We can do it as a group, or we can do it, and we do it for Marketo, Eloqua, Pardot, HubSpot, Silverpup, any of the marketing automation, also any CRM, so Dynamics, Salesforce, you name it, and CMS. So I could go on and on. Basically, it's platform agnostic. So if you have a specific configuration, you're curious about how it would work, just shoot me an email, again, hello@reachforce.com, and more than happy to set that up. And any questions you have as a result of the webinar, please let me know. We'll be putting up a recording of this so that you can watch it on demand. We'll send you an email follow-up with the link to that. It may or may not be gated, probably won't be, might be. You never know with us. We try to keep it interesting. Depends on what Brian tells me I should do, right? Maximizing conversions. But I'm going to call it, and it was another great session. It's always different, and it's always, for me personally, a great learning experience. I love working with Brian, and I thank you all for attending. It's your willingness to be put on the hot seat that makes this so interesting for everyone. And thank you again. Thank you, Brian, for being here. Have a great time in Europe.
My pleasure.
Officially super jealous, and I'd like to go in your suitcase. But barring that, I'll just see you when you get back. And thanks again, and hopefully we'll see you at another ReachForce webinar. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.